Alright guys, so Orbs. What's going on with it? What is it? What's the truth? Well, I'm going to explain that in this video. And I'm going to do my best to be as detailed as I possibly can in this video. But I also want to make this video as quick as possible. I don't want a long video. One of the things in the paranormal, yes, orbs, it's like this thing. No matter the information you put out there to tell people, hey, this is really what's going on and this is what you're really capturing, doesn't matter. Again, this comes to the lack of education in the paranormal. People not understanding how their gear actually works. This video, yes, I'm going to show the mechanics of what is going on, why we're getting certain things in our photo. I got a couple of videos lined up right now that show exactly, what's going on when somebody's taking a photo or even video. So hopefully you guys get something out of this. Hopefully you guys enjoy this. And let's get to it. All right, so I'm going to be showing some footage. It's actually from the slow motion guys. You guys should definitely go check out their YouTube channel. It's a fun channel. They do all kinds of cool, crazy stuff in slow motion. Now, there is a reason why I'm showing this footage. I want people to understand what is going on as soon as they hit the shutter button on a camera. And I think that's very important. It may not make sense now, but later on we'll start tying all this together and it'll make more sense. So I'm going to go ahead. I want to play this video. So basically, they're just showing the shutter in slow motion, what's going on. So as soon as you hit the button to take a picture, this is basically what happens. Now, what's coming down now, that's a mirror. New cameras now, they don't use this anymore. Hence, mirrorless cameras. I'm going to let him explain what's going on.
What's happening inside that camera when they take a picture. The fact that the shutter is made of two clusters of metal blades, but at their shortest duration are moving right next to each other, allowing just the smallest slit of light to hit the sensor. This is also a great visual representation of why you need so much light for a high shutter speed shot, because the amount of time the light is hitting the sensor is so short, you end up with a much darker image. There are many types of shutter that a camera can have. This is a mechanical shutter, but there's also an electronic shutter which doesn't have any moving parts. In video mode, this will actually use an electronic shutter. It basically takes an image 30 times every second without covering the sensor. This camera's shutter is also a rolling shutter, which is the opposite of a global shutter. And what that means is that it doesn't actually take the whole image at the same time. You may have noticed from the slow-mo that the image is taken from the top to the bottom of the sensor. That basically means that whenever you take a picture, the top of the picture is actually older than the bottom by a fraction of a second. And technically that statement should be flipped, as everything traveling through a lens is actually upside down by the time it gets to the sensor.
So what's important there is he's showing, the shutter speed and showing what's going on. The slower the shutter, that means the longer the sensor is exposed to light, which then can create motion blur. And that's really important, and that's going to tie into something a little later in this video. All right, this next clip, again, I'm going to let him explain what's going on, but he noticed something really interesting, and again, this is also important. And again, this will start tying in together a little bit later in the video.
Electronic shutter on this camera, when it's in video mode, works in the exact same way. It takes each line of pixels from top to bottom because it doesn't have the power to take the whole image at once. And this can lead to some interesting artifacts when filming certain subjects. You may remember this video from a few years ago. I was blasting Dan in the face with a cork, and when I was editing the video, I noticed something really weird in the Canon footage. On this one frame of video, the cork is suspended in the air, but the shadow of the cork has already hit him in the face. Luckily we had the Phantom right by its side so we can analyze exactly what happened with the Canon there. So imagine the color going down the screen as the Canon acquiring each frame of its video. Nothing happening in this frame. Watch this one though. As it gets down to the cork firing, it then hits the shadow. And that explains why there are two different moments in time at different heights in the same frame. Almost any camera you use these days to shoot video will have a rolling shutter, and that's due to the frequency of CMOS sensors being used in DSLRs and pretty much every smartphone. And you can test this out by pointing your camera outside the window of a moving car and just filming trees and poles that go by. You'll notice that everything that's vertical will be slightly skewed diagonally because the object is moving as it's being scanned from top to bottom or bottom to top.
All right. So again, that's important, and it's going to start tying in here in the video soon, I promise. One more footage that I want to show, and basically it's to simulate how a photo is processed in the camera or taken. All right, guys, so literally what you guys are seeing here is basically a simulation of how a photo is processed. This is exactly how it works. And you can see from left to right, the pixels are being filled in. They're being scanned in. That is literally how a camera works, whether it's a digital camera or video camera. That's literally how it works. Now, this is slow motion. The whole process is a hell of a lot faster than that. All right, so this is when I start tying things together a little bit with previous footage that I had shown. So the footage that I showed earlier regarding the camera, how it functions, and how it takes a photo or a video, well, this here is a result of slow shutter, the way the camera processes an image, and all that stuff. This guy's claiming that he has a flying rod or a skyfish versus a horsefly, apparently. But I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to play this video, and then I'm going to show video that I actually recorded. All right, so this is footage that I recorded. I recorded this at 2 different frame rates, 30 frames per second, 60 frames per second. You guys are going to see a difference in the frame rate. And it's basically going to debunk the whole rod or flying rods or skyfish, whatever people are calling it. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to play this. It's 30 frames per second. Starting to look a little familiar, isn't it? These are just gnats. The closer I zoomed in, the harder it was for the shutter to keep up with these bugs. They're just moving way too fast for the shutter. I'm going to go ahead and continue to play this so you guys can just watch, I guess. And I back out, look, they're just bugs. That's it. Now, yes, does this ghosting effect. Now, 60 frames per second. Now, there's still a little bit of a motion blur there, but because I'm recording at a higher frame rate, we're not getting that rod effect or skyfish effect. So it kind of debunks the whole skyfish or flying rods, whatever people are calling it. And this also is going to tie into what we're going to get into next, and that is orbs. Now we're going to start getting into orbs. And again, a lot of this stuff is going to go back to what I had shown early in the video regarding the shutter, how a picture is processed, all that good stuff. So everything here, this is not paranormal. These are not orbs, they're not spirits. All it is just airborne particles. So chances are there's probably dust in this photo. There's water moisture in the air in this photo, even pollen. And what we're seeing here is just a mess of what I had already said: pollen, dust, moisture. Now, some of these look like they're in motion. Some of these, or most of these, don't look like they have any motion to them either. So again, going back to previous footage, motion blur, the shutter, how fast the shutter's moving to take a photo. Now, this particle here to the left, particle here to the right, and some of these others, they look like they're moving, kind of streaking. They look like they're coming at an upward angle. This one in particular over here to the left. It's actually not. It's actually coming downward at an angle. So the way we're perceiving this little light anomaly here, it's misleading. It's actually headed downwards. Now, the argument could be, well, these are moving really fast, but these other ones, they look like they're just standing still. Again, these particles here were probably moving faster and probably closer to the lens than these other particles. Therefore, the shutter can't keep up with the movement of this little anomaly here, whereas it was able to with these other anomalies. I mean, this stuff, it happens. It happens all the time. The other thing, too, is lighting is important, and I will get into that. We go to the next photo. Again, nothing paranormal here. Those are likely water particles in the air. It's foggy outside, and that's probably what that is. And we got this guy here. A lot of people would believe something like this or this is an actual orb. Forget all the other ones you guys have seen. This is real. This is an orb. This is a spirit orb. No ands, ifs, or buts about it. No, that's not what it is. The argument is that it has a middle, center, and then an outer ring, and then it has this blue or purple hue going on the outside. And these experts will say that is a real orb. That is not a real orb. We're not even seeing the whole picture. This is cropped. I didn't even know why this person decided to crop it. Maybe to blow it up, to show it off. I don't know. But somewhere, wherever this picture was taken, the flash hit something and came back, hit the lens, creating this effect. I'm going to address the purple or blue haze here. That's chromatic aberration, and this is normal in all cameras. More expensive lenses won't do this as bad, but it's still there. So I'm going to bring up this photo. Taken by a professional photographer. Obviously, he's got an expensive camera and expensive lenses, and still getting that purple hue or blue hue chromatic aberration. And we can see that all around this bird. Same thing with this one. We can see chromatic aberration here as well. I'm going to go back to this photo, and I'm going to further show what is happening. So we were at a location filming, and this happened. Now, right now, I'm only showing you what I want to show you, and that's basically how this works in the paranormal field. People only want to show what they want you to see, and that's it. So I want to play this. And there it is. Now you can get multiple little circles like this, or you can get a single circle like the one I had shown. So what's happening with this is exactly what's happening here. The problem again is that we don't see the entire picture. We don't know what's going on with this guy here. Definitely another source of light or reflection happen, causing this to happen. I'm going to let this video loop. This is my footage from the Monroe house. This was actually the first time I had ever been in the Monroe house. So I just took my phone, recorded video. The light was actually on my phone. Certain parts of the Monroe house is kind of dark, and the phone I had was garbage. But anyways, I had a lot of people tell me, "Hey, you captured something." Again, I already knew what it was. Now I had actually seen this with my own eyes. I know it was a bug. For whatever reason, I didn't call it out at the time. But I just wanted to give an example of motion blur. Again, it's a bug. I know exactly where it came from because I had seen it hanging out on that window on the plastic. So again, yeah, just another example of motion blur. It's nothing paranormal. It's it's just a bug. The shutter couldn't keep up with it, and it created that streak effect. So this is just a few examples of motion blur. I'm kind of simulating how a camera would function at night. Mainly just point and shoot cameras or your cell phone camera or whatever kind of camera you have. And this can apply also to video cameras as well, but going to focus more on digital cameras. So the argument that I get with people is that I will say, here's what's going on, and the reason why you got this anomaly that's streaking through your photo because of motion blur. That this object is moving so fast that the shutter just can't keep up with it, and you get this anomaly. The argument is, well, these other people, they were moving around. How come there's no motion blur with them? This is paranormal. Haha, got you. No. So, first off, those people are probably far away from the camera or far enough away from a camera so that doesn't happen. And they're probably not even moving fast enough to create a motion blur effect. Whereas something like dust or whatever, when it comes really close to the lens and it moves by, it may be moving really slow, but it's still moving fast enough to create a streak in the photo. And again, that goes back to earlier footage that I had shown on how the shutter works, how it affects the photos, the way the photos process, all that stuff. So stuff like this, I have seen a lot of photos of like weird light anomalies and stuff like that. And I say, well, that's motion blur. And then they're going to argue, no, it's not because nothing else has that effect, or something's not moving, or people are moving, whatever. And this is the only thing that's in the photo. So that's paranormal. No. That drives me nuts. So I'm going to try to address this as quick as I can. Different colored orbs. I can't stand calling them orbs. Anyways, for the sake of the video, I just keep calling them orbs. Anyhow, why different colored orbs? There's a lot going on there. So first off, it depends. Usually dust particles, they're just white or a grayish color. They can be really bright or whatever, but they're never really a different color. Water particles and sometimes pollen, they can show up as different colors. So let's say you're investigating a room and there's an object in the room that is red. Even though the object isn't in frame when you take a photo and you get the little dust orb or whatever it is, you get it in your photo, it could show up as red. Well, again, that red object was probably shiny and reflective, and it caused that little particle to be red. They can be many different colors. It's going to depend on, again, what's in the room, the colors that are in the room, even your own clothing can make these little dust orbs or water particles or even pollen be different colors. One of the things that I've always said when it comes to doing investigations is that lighting is important. Never, ever, ever have whatever light you're using, whether it's an IR light or just a normal camera light, never have it close to your lens. Most just point and shoot cameras or even our cell phones, the flash, it's really close to our lens. And that can create some really interesting situations. So I'm going to show an example with this video. It's foggy outside, and this is exactly what our eyes see as well. I'm going to play this video. Now the light on the phone is off. I'm filming this with my phone. It is off. Once I turn the light on, now we get this. Lighting is important. Later in this video, I'm going to have footage that is basically the nail in the coffin when it comes to orbs. But this is important because, again, lighting is important. Guys, when you are filming or taking pictures, try to keep the light source, if you can, as far away from the lens as possible. If you can keep it a few inches away from the lens, you should be good. That should eliminate, if not all, most of all those little particles being shown in the footage. All right, guys, bear with me. There is a reason why I'm showing this. In photography, there is something called bokeh or bokeh. I don't know what the hell it's called. I just call it bokeh. Anyways, it's a really cool effect that you can do with cameras. Depth of field, stuff like that. But anyways, we see this little penguin guy. You know, he is in focus. He is the center of the photo. Behind us is a Christmas tree. Well, not behind us. Behind this little guy is a Christmas tree. We all know Christmas lights, they're small. Yes, yeah, they do make bigger Christmas bulbs, but at any rate, that's not what these are. They're the smaller lights. Look how big they look. And if you guys look closely, that one right there kind of looks like what they would call the nucleus orb. Same thing with that one, and that one, and that one. So anyhow, yeah, there's a reason why I'm showing this. When you get a little piece of dust or water droplets or even pollen that comes into frame, and the camera is actually able to pick up on that, it's going to be out of focus, and it's going to appear a lot bigger than what it really is. And I have some video example of that. All right, so this footage that I took here, it's old. It was in another video where I was doing an Orb debunk. Wasn't a very good video, but anyhow, again, it just shows that when an object is out of focus. So the footage here, again, I recorded this footage. This is actually old footage. This is back when I did my first debunk video on orbs. But anyhow, again, this goes back to the bokeh, bokeh thing, whatever the hell it is in photography. And again, there are objects, you know, when they're out of focus, they look a lot larger than what they really are. So I'm going to play this video and we're going to move on. And again, guys, this is all going to tie in together towards the end. Now, that is just a street light. That's all it was. And it was probably maybe 200 feet away, I'm guessing, away from where I'm at. So again, out of focus, looks a lot larger than what it really is. Let's move on. All right, something that I want to quickly cover here, guys. I see this, if you look over to the right at this picture, these weird light anomalies. Guys, these are reflections. That's what's happening here. Motion blur. Even though everything here looks like it's all in focused, it's crisp. It doesn't look like somebody who's moving their camera around. You're always shaking. And in this particular picture, yeah, the person who was probably taking the photo, their hands were shaking a little bit. The flash reflected off of this gate here and caused these weird light anomalies. I can recreate that with ease, and I sort of did earlier in the video. Let's see. Stuff like this, again, this is probably just some air particle that got lit up by the flash. And again, shutter speed causing this effect. Let's move on here. Well, that picture's tiny, but yeah, again, low shutter speed. Something was there that created that. That is not paranormal. This here, again, this is not paranormal. All of this, again, motion blur. Um, you also have shutter speed, uh, lighting, things like that. All of those things. I'm trying to get everything to come together here, guys. Um, there's nothing paranormal with this. Same thing with this. This was obviously filmed on a security system. Security systems notorious for this, especially the cheaper ones, because they're only filming anywhere from 10 to maybe 15 frames per second. More expensive DVR systems, they'll record at 30 or even 60 frames per second. You know, had this person been recording at 30 or 60 frames per second, they would probably still get this anomaly here, but it would just look like a little ball of light. Find some more random stuff here. Yeah, this 100% not paranormal. Um, Trying to find some more examples here. Let me go back here and look. Again, this is not paranormal. This was probably a bug. No, this was a bug. And again, guys, slow shutter speed, the way the photos processed, all that stuff, this is the effect you get. All right, so this is what I call the nail in the coffin footage. This was recorded in 2012, Poasttown Elementary School. This was actually the first time I investigated Poasttown. Great place, highly recommend it, guys. Go check it out. So anyhow, what I want you guys to notice, we have two cameras here. They're both synced up. They're both, the timing and everything like that is spot on. Difference here is angle and lighting position. Cameras, they're both the same brand, same everything. The camera on the left, the light is a lot closer to the lens than it is on the right. And here's where we're going to start tying things in. You can see that these light anomalies look like they have a streak, but it's only showing up in one camera. So earlier in the video, shutter speed, the way the camera's processed, along with motion blur, that is creating this effect. Lighting, important. Positioning of lighting, important. The reason why one camera was getting this light anomaly, which is just dust, and the other isn't, is again, the positioning of the light. The closer you have your light to your lens, the more airborne particles you're going to get. Now, a few other things that I want to address within this video, and I do have another clip to show before I end this. And again, I'm going to keep letting this roll. And maybe you guys have already noticed this, but there is one piece of dust particle that goes one direction and quickly turns around and goes another and disappears. Dust can do that. Any airborne particle can do that. And people try to say, well, you know, dust can't do that. You know, it just goes with the flow of air. That is absolutely not exactly true. Dust can move from one direction and quickly turn to another direction. The other thing, it looks like these balls of light are materializing and then disappearing. The explanation, and this is the explanation for it, lighting. You guys notice how bright certain parts of the frame are. There could have very well been something there in frame, but we couldn't see it because the IR light or whatever kind of light you're using didn't illuminate it until it hit this sweet spot or the hot spot. So basically, you have something that comes into frame. It's there. You can't see it, But once it starts getting in front of the hot spot or the brightest part of the footage or photo, the light illuminates that and makes it look like it materializes and then just disappears. That's what's going on. The other explanation, too, is that it's landing on his clothes. I've seen this in a paranormal TV show a few times, and I've seen this on YouTubers' videos as well, where they say, oh, this orb, it went into my body. And no, it landed on your clothes. That's what happened. Or it went through their body and then came out their body. Explanation for that is that whatever they were wearing made this dust particle or whatever it was invisible. It blended in with their clothing. So as it was literally just passing by them. And as it passed by them, it appeared that it disappeared, but it simply went in front of them and it just wasn't illuminated. Yes, those are my Sasha's fingers. So again, to kind of cover when people claim that they have these orbs or light anomalies go in and out of their bodies. In this footage, it looks like a little orb come out of my finger there. It's actually passing over my fingers, and we can't get a good look at it until here, when it passes my pointer finger. What I'm going to do is I'm going to slow this down. I'm going to crop in as best as I can here without losing too much information. So what I want you guys to notice, I got my pointer over here. Let me put my pointer over. All right, there we go. So what I want you guys to notice is this up here. This piece of dust is passing over my fingers. And we can see it come in here, passing over. Boom, there it is. Now, it may be hard for you guys to see. This thing just didn't magically come out of my finger. We just weren't able to see it very well because lighting. And that's what's going on. So when you see people say, oh, this light anomaly went through me, that piece of dust or whatever it was probably landed on their clothing, or passed by them and just sort of blended into whatever it was that they were wearing, causing it to where we couldn't see it. And that's what's going on. So again, I'm just going to let this loop and get ready to end it here. Nobody has captured spirit orbs. Nobody. All of the orb videos, photos, all that stuff. No, it's not paranormal. It's easy to sell as paranormal, but it absolutely is not. Now, maybe Ghost Adventures captured an orb. Maybe. The problem is that we didn't get to see the light source. They had a camera set up. It was a static camera set up. It was at a cave overseas. I don't remember exactly where at. But they captured a light. And all you could see was just the light itself. You couldn't see the actual anomaly. And it was creating shadows. And you could tell it was moving. But it was creating shadows. Again, orbs are a ball of light. You can see them with your own eyes. They emit their own lights. They can cast shadows, objects and such. Now, I have seen, personally, weird light anomalies. I don't know what they were. The most recent time I had actually seen something like this was the second time we went to the Conjuring house. Thank you, Levy, from Chasing Darkness Paranormal. We were investigating the Conjuring house, and I was looking outside, and I kept seeing these lights up in the trees. And I was actually on the phone with somebody, They're like, is it a helicopter? I'm like, yeah, I don't think a helicopter would be in the woods. That's just not going to happen. Is it a snowmobile? No, these are really high up. These are up in the trees, and they're lighting up, and then they're fading away. And this happened many times. I believe Matt witnessed it as well. Now, I didn't know this because their documentary wasn't out yet. But there's a documentary called Sleepless Unrest. It's a documentary where they went to the Conjuring house and stayed there to see what it was like spending time there. They were outside investigating, and they captured the same light anomalies in the same place that I had seen these light anomalies. I don't know what it was. I'm not saying it was paranormal, but I have no clue what it was. But guys, I made this video to try to educate, and hopefully you guys got something out of this. It's probably not going to be an exciting video or whatever, but I'm just hoping you guys can get something out of this. It's important because we have all this nonsense going on in the paranormal, and people, they get upset. How come skeptics and scientists don't take the paranormal seriously? Well, as I've said for a long time, they do take the paranormal seriously. They don't take us seriously. Look at all the nonsense that goes on in the paranormal. Orbs have been debunked many times. Over 20 years ago, they've been debunked. There's, when you open up the manual on your cameras, especially back in the day, they explain what's going on in the camera, and they call them orbs. You get these orbs in your photos, and here's what's going on. Here's what's happening, and they're saying it is dust, and it has everything to do with the flash. Some of them even went on to explain the streaks that people get in their photos. Low light, slow shutter speed, the flash, being close to the lens. Apparently nobody reads their owner's manual when it comes to basically anything, I guess. But again, I hope you guys get something out of this. And that's it, guys.